Today I'm going to be showing you 3 of my favourite Gretsch guitars under £500. Let's go. Gretsch guitars have carved out their own place in guitar history with their iconic shapes, iconic sounds, and iconic players. Certainly whenever anybody says the word Gretsch, you probably immediately think of that iconic white Falcon, that big old body, all that gold hardware, all the sparkly goodness is all great. But of course, what comes with that guitar also comes the price tag with it. And certainly not everybody can just go out and grab one of them. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to focus on 3 particular guitars. And these are 3 of my personal favorites when it comes to the Gretsch Streamliner line, which is an easy sort of like distinguisher for their sort of entry level, you know, sort of lower priced range. The Electromatic would be the next one up from there, and then you're starting to get into the kind of spicy stuff up from there. Aaron's doing a great job in holding his sneezes in case you heard any of those. But bless you, mate. But what we're looking at today, I'm going to start with just this one in my lap, and there's a couple of different ones. So if you do want to check out a particular guitar, just check the chapters below. I'm going to be chatting about a couple of the ones that you may see right beside me here, but let's start with this one, shall we? This is the G2215 P90 Junior Jet. Now, at the time of recording, this is coming in at sub £350, and from, you know, my personal opinion on that, what you're getting out of this guitar far sort of outweighs its price tag. Not only because of the look, because that was kind of one thing that I was chatting about just before we started filming today, was like, certainly, you know, kind of entry-level guitars, they've got a certain feel to them, just because the resources and whatnot are not going to be the same that they use on their several £1,000 guitar. But looks-wise, I think this really holds up with a lot of the kind of, you know, fancy guitars that you're really going to see. You know, it's a flat top on there. It's got a little bit of binding on it, but just the sort of vibe of this sort of carries it more than anything. And certainly in terms of the configuration of one of the kind of Gretsch classic toaster pickups on there, with a P90, is you're able to cover a lot of ground with this guitar. Now, unlike a lot of other Gretches, this has got a bolt-on neck for it, but that actually may be quite appealing to a lot of folk. But let's get some tones out of this, shall we? Because I'm not really going to focus too much on specs. There's just going to be a couple of things I'm really going to mention. So starting things off, just on a clean tone, I'll start with my bridge, cycle through all the positions. So quite a lot of mix just with those 2 pickups there. Certainly there's a little bit of a sort of like EQ difference with that. Certainly I'm feeling with the bridge pickup. It's a little bit kind of more sort of direct, a little bit more trebly, whereas you're getting all that warmth out of that P90 there, which, you know, if I didn't sort of already mention it in the video as well, that's one of my favourite pickup combinations that you can get, because you are able to obviously kick on a little bit of drive. which, you know, you're getting that kind of like really sort of direct rhythm tone out of the bridge there, but then obviously able to get a little bit of a kind of warmer sort of lead tone, or any other tone really, out of that neck, because one of the things that I particularly love if I kick off my distortions there again is the clean tone that you can get out of P90. You know, super nice warm tones out of that, but then obviously to go even warmer with it, you can roll down your single tone knob on there, which for anybody who was wondering, that's the master volume up there, which is quite a sort of Gretchy thing. But if you do want to kind of go like, you know, sort of jazz with that, if you want to, roll down all your tone and then you're going to get that super warm sort of jazz tone out of it as well. Which that is about as much jazz as I'm going to be able to play for you, because I can do my 251 on there. But one of the other highlights that I want to just talk about before I move on to another guitar as well is obviously the neck shape on this is a kind of thin U neck shape, which means that it's quite a lot like flatter, just kind of down the bottom. It's not as like rounded as a C or anything like that. So, you know, not only is the design kind of evocative of quite a sort of famous single cut guitar, but also the neck shape is going to be kind of in that same ballpark for anybody who is keen. And it does come in some other finishes as well if you're not keen on the shell pink. But let's move on to something that's maybe a bit more iconic when it comes to the Gretsch brand, which is going to be this guy right here. And unfortunately, much like Ibanez, I'm not particularly good at remembering the names of these guitars. So this one is the G2420 Streamliner hollow body and aged Brooklyn burst. You're kind of getting that much sort of bigger, iconic shape that you would expect with a Gretsch, and certainly big acoustics out of it as well. So let's hear how this guy's sounding through the same patch that I was using. So of course, being a big actual hollow body guitar as well, it's absolutely great for, you know, just strumming some chords on, getting a superb rhythm tone out of it. You know, absolutely fantastic for that. And you know, you've got both pickup positions on there as well. Which, you know, you're definitely going to be able to cover a lot of bases. But one of the things that I particularly love about these guitars, and remember this is obviously under the £500 mark with this one as well. Now this doesn't have that kind of classic Gretsch Bigsby on it, which means, you know, you're not really going to be kind of losing too much of your tuning if you're going to be using that excessively. But I think, you know, with bands kind of like Queens of the Stone Age, The Cult with like Billy Duffy and stuff, I mean, there's a White Falcon player just himself. These kind of guitars, I think, handle really well when you throw like a bunch of fuzz and distortion on them. Like, don't be afraid of that sort of feedback and the sort of aggressiveness you're going to get from it, because it's quite a sort of unique sound. So I'm going to throw in all of my distortion on here, and I'm just going to go to town on this thing. Now, obviously, no one will know what I was playing there, but you know what I'm talking about. You can get that really like sort of like aggressive yet warm, full sort of sound out of that. Now, I had like a couple of overdrives and a fuzz on with that, but if we kind of cycle back to the clean tone with this, one of the cool things that these Streamliners have started to adopt is coil splits in them. So, obviously, we have our full-blown humbucker sound out of this. Which by having that split on there, it just gives you so much more flexibility with an already pretty flexible guitar in terms of its tone. And kind of like I said right at the start as well, of pulling this guitar out, there's, you know, no stopping you from sitting and jamming on that acoustically as well. It's not going to be as loud as a normal acoustic, but certainly if you're just sitting on the couch sort of jamming with yourself, then you're not going to have any problems with that. Let's move on to the last model of the day, and if I can check my handy cheat sheets as well, this is the G2622T center block in vintage white. Now this is maybe kind of what a lot more people associate with Gretsch. We've got that big Bigsby on there. It's obviously, it's got quite a cool colour on there, but one of my favourite things when it comes to a lot of these is that sort of two-tone vibe to it, that the top will be a different colour from the back and the neck. But this is obviously very evocative of like a 335 style or something, which shows that you don't need to go for that massive, massive body style if you are keen on Gretsch's. And this has got the same pickups that were in the other Streamliner that was just playing, but let's maybe do something a little bit different on this one. Now, obviously, that's not to say that you can't just throw in some distortion and go, because you totally can, and you can certainly throw any level of gain at a Gretsch, because certainly my first sort of like impressions of a Gretsch, they were good for clean, they were good for country, and they were maybe good for some sort of alternative styles of music. But the more and more time I spent with them and the more that I got my hands on them, certainly seeing some other players that were using them, I mean, sheesh, even these days, like the guys from like Loathe are using like baritone Gretches and all that sort of stuff to show that like metal players can be using these. And certainly the pickups that are in a lot of these guitars, they're a lot higher gain than you do think. So, you know, maybe take a little bit of time with a Gretsch the next time you're in a guitar store. You might just find that you surprise yourself with what it can handle. But let me know what you think about all of these Gretches. These have just been 3 of my favourite that are under the £500 mark. Now, there's obviously a lot more in the range as well, but certainly let me know which one is your favourite. While you're down there, give us a like and a subscribe because it really does help the page, and you can keep an eye of all the new videos that are coming out from Guitar HQ. But until next time, I've been Kieran, and this has just been a quick look at 3 of my favourite Gretches under £500. Have a great day. Stevie. I missed it! I missed my cue! Stevie. Stevie.